How is everyone here? All feeling great? Enjoying sitting at home in the comforts of your home, trying to enjoy the classes? Or are you all missing your classes and you want to meet your friends? Yes? I'm sure majority of you would be liking to go to the classes, have fun, and enjoy with your teachers, your students, isn't it? But I think few of you already know me, and few students who do not know me, for them, let me introduce myself. I am Purvi Kothari, and I'll be dealing with the chemistry section of science. Okay, I'll be dealing with the chemistry section of science. See, as you all were expecting, it was a biology lecture. We just flipped the lecture. To the first lecture is going to be of chemistry today, and I hope you are already so cheerfully listening to chemistry, isn't it? Because I know when I say the word chemistry, majority of you have this fear of the subject, thinking that you don't fear the subject, basically you dislike the subject because you always feel chemistry is difficult to understand. Is it? Is that so? The difficulty arises, students, when you are forcefully studying the subject just because it is given in the syllabus and not because it is interesting. First, try to make the subject interesting by asking yourself one question, that how is this chemistry going to get related to me in my daily life? And if you are able to answer that question, then I think the subject becomes interesting. What do you say? Shall we all start with the lectures today? Yes? Okay, very well. Very happy to see old students and new ones. So let us quickly begin the class by sharing my screen. But just give me a minute before that. And I hope I am loud and clear to everyone sitting out there. Okay? So, my dear students, as we are talking about science, in this science, the first chapter, as sir has already given you instructions, I feel you're supposed to keep your videos off and be yourself on mute. So I would really appreciate that if everybody is doing it. Okay. And I am clear to everyone who is sitting out there. So, my dear students, in the textbook of science, the fourth chapter, which is my first chapter of chemistry today, is measurement of matter. So, the name of the chapter which we are going to start today is called as measurement of matter. First of all, repeat this name thrice. And most important thing, I know it's a lazy afternoon, it's been heavily raining outside since morning. You might not be in the mood, but students, don't waste this beautiful opportunity of studying online. Okay, so please sit properly. No more sleeping beauties in the class where you just lie around on your beds, open your mobile phones, put in the just log in and try to think that we are learning the lecture. It is not going to happen. You need to have a notebook, a paper or a pen or some study material with you. Sit upright positions and listen to me carefully. Am I clear to everyone sitting out there? So come on everyone, repeat after me. What is the name of the chapter we are starting today? The first chapter we are going to start today is called as measurement of matter. What is the name of the chapter? Measurement of matter. Yes, very good. Now, what are we going to study in this chapter? Let us try to understand. First, let me show you a picture of one person. Do you remember who is he? Anybody remembers who is this person? This person has helped us a lot in our previous standards. Anybody remember? Oh, wow, I've got one answer. Impressive. No, also I'm getting an answer. How bad is that? He is none other than John Dalton. He's John Dalton, my dear students, the English chemist whom we had utilized so much in the previous standard. Eighth standard entire chemistry was depending on Dalton's theory. Now, do you remember? It's okay if you don't remember the phase. That was just a question, random question. So, John Dalton, what did John Dalton? You don't have to write anything and you don't have to copy entire slides which I am showing you. I will tell you what you are supposed to write and when you are supposed to write, and I will give you enough time to do that. Okay, so do not worry about that. Don't simply just sit down and start copying everything. You will lose the connect with the chapter and you will not be able to understand the topic. Okay, so I don't want you to write anything. Just listen to me when I am saying. So why have I showed the picture of John Dalton here? Because in the previous standard, my dear student, John Dalton helped us to understand the most important concept, which is called as Dalton's atomic theory. I hope you remember this name, right? Yes, it's Dalton's atomic theory. And what have we studied in Dalton's atomic theory? He gave us the most important word, most important statement, that matter is made up of small particles, which Dalton named it as atoms. Basically, the word was atomos, from which we have derived the word atoms. See, when I talk about matter, first of all, tell me, do you know what is matter? बहुत matter हो गया है, इधर matter हो गया, उधर matter हो गया, not that matter, okay? What is matter all about? What is matter? We've been continuously using this matter. What inside the atom, measurement of matter, this matter, that matter. What is this matter? Why are we so much talking about this matter? Okay, you're sitting in your homes, sitting in front of your mobile phone, your laptop, you have books, surrounding you, there are so many things. You yourself are made up of matter. Basically, matter is nothing but it is made up of small particles which are called as atoms. Everything surrounding us is matter. If everything around me is matter, don't you think it is important for us to understand why are we studying this matter? Now, are you able to answer the question, the reason of studying this chapter? Not because just it is given in our syllabus, but because everything around me is matter, which is made up of tiny particles called as atoms. And that is the need of this chapter, where John Dalton helped us to understand that matter is made up of tiny particles, which are called as atoms. So what about these atoms? Me, ma'am, we have already studied about atoms last year. I know everything about atom. I know how does an atom looks like. I know what is it made up of, isn't it? Do you all remember all that? If you've liked chemistry last year, I'm pretty sure all my students are able to answer this question. When I say atoms, the picture should very well come clear in your mind, isn't it? Okay, a bit. Do not worry. Let me help you with this. In the previous standard, we learned that compounds are formed by chemical combination of elements. We've studied that when the elements chemically combine together, we get something which is called as compound. Again, these three common terms which we have been repeatedly using in a chemistry lecture. See, what happens is, students, you've heard these words a lot number of times, like elements, compounds, mixture, atoms, matter, molecule. But when I ask you to define them, it is then where you face the difficulty. You've heard this word, you know about them, but you're not able to describe them. For example, let me ask you a most simple question of chemistry, by which I usually ask in my first lecture, is what is an element? Just let me know if you know. See, because of this online thing, we are forced to not see each other and just sit in our places, but at least you can be true to yourself and raise your hand and let me know that how many of you are able to define what is an element. Okay, I see few students raising their hands. Very nice, very good. This is how we are going to try to make it interactive. Okay, I've also got some answers here. Everything around us, element is a thing, it is nitrogen. Okay, okay, very good, very nice. So you all are getting a hint of what is an element, but nobody is able to give me an exact definition what is an element is made up of. My dear student, any definition when asked to you, first of all, what you're going to do is you're going to try it connect with an example. Let me take the example of one iron rod. Everybody has seen an iron rod, right? Have you seen an iron rod? You don't have to write. I told you when you are supposed to write. Have you all seen an iron rod? Yes. Have you tried to break that iron rod? Have you ever tried, or have you ever seen when an iron rod is broken? When it breaks or when it is broken, what happens? Does that iron get converted into gold? Does that iron get converted into gold? Absolutely no. The iron is still going to contain small particles of iron itself, isn't it? That means my element is made up of only one type of matter or one type of atom. The smallest particle is going to remain the same. That is my element. So my element is a substance that is made up of only one type of matter. And with these elements combined together in fixed proportion by weight, I get something which is called as a compound. I get something which is called as a compound. So I hope now you're able to understand. So a substance which cannot be broken, very good definition. A substance that cannot be broken into simpler substances by chemical means are called as an element, and two elements combined together in fixed proportion, it is called as a compound. This is all what we have learned in the previous standard. So why are we connecting all this? Why do you want to revise? Ma'am, ho gaya purana. Abhi let's study something new. Is you might be thinking, right? But students, everywhere there is a connection. Last year what we studied, we're trying to move a little ahead of what we did. So you need to revise what we did last year. The composition of a substance changes during a chemical change. The composition of a substance always changes during a chemical change. Scientists could then write the molecular formulae of various compounds on the basis of Dalton's atomic theory and the laws of chemical combination. Now, this Dalton's atomic theory was very useful in understanding the laws of chemical combination, because students, it was not only one scientist, Dalton. There were many scientists who came throughout the journey who were very curious and fascinated to know what exactly is happening with these elements. How are they reacting with each other? How new substances are formed? On the basis of that, we try to understand laws of chemical combination. Here we shall verify the laws of chemical combination by the means of known molecular formulae. So the first important topic in the chapter named as measurement of matter we are going to learn is called as laws of chemical combination. So what are we going to study today? Everyone, come on, repeat after me. What are we going to study first? The first thing which we are going to learn today is called as laws of chemical combination. Once again, come on, repeat. What are we learning? Laws of chemical combination. And in laws of chemical combination, the first law which we are going to study is called as law of conservation of matter, and the second one is law of constant proportion. Now I am giving you 15 seconds time. Take out your notebook. If you've not maintained a separate chemistry notebook, it is absolutely fine. But if you're making one science book, I would request you to make it in sections, because you just don't have to sit and turn the pages and search where is the chemistry section. So try to make sections of your text notebooks so that it becomes easier for you to find when in case if you try to revise. Okay. So please write it in your notebook. Give the heading as laws of chemical combination, in which the first one we are going to do today is law of conservation of matter, and the second one is law of constant proportion. Okay, I should wait for 30 seconds. I think I've already wasted my 15 seconds. I'll wait for 15 minutes, 15 seconds more. Do not worry. Once you're done, just raise your hand and let me know. Okay, I like the participation. Thank you so much. When you actively participate in the class, it's really fun to have this online lecture as well. Thank you so much, my dear students. So now, as we can see, we are going to start with laws of chemical combination, in which the first one is law of conservation of matter, and the second one is law of constant proportion. Okay. Now, whenever you are studying chemistry, remember, do not go ahead without you are carrying out some small example or an activity. So in this law also we are going to understand with the help of a simple activity. Let us see what are the activity I'm going to do here. Here students, I'm taking a solution in a conical flask. Okay, the calcium chloride solution I'm taking in a conical flask, and a solution of sodium sulfate in a test tube. Now I'm going to tie a thread. Try to understand. Okay, be attentive. I am tying a thread to the test tube and inserting in the conical flask, sealing the conical flask with an airtight rubber cork, and then I'll weigh the mass of the conical flask using a balance. Now I've written 4 statements here, and I'm pretty sure if you're reading the statement, you're trying to imagine. Do not bother much, just see here. Here I have a weighing balance. On top of it, I am having a conical flask. Everyone has seen a conical flask in the laboratory. Unfortunately, you are not having the liberty to see right now, but at least we can make use of this PowerPoint presentation. We have a conical flask. As you can see in the conical flask, I have taken a solution which is calcium chloride. What is there in the conical flask? Calcium chloride. Inside that, I have placed a test tube in such a manner that you observe carefully. It is in such a manner that the solutions are not mixing. The solutions are not mixing with each other. I have a solution of sodium sulfate in the test tube and calcium chloride in the conical flask. I have tied it with a thread to make sure that they don't mix with each other. Then I seal it with the conical flask with an airtight rubber cork, and I'm weighing the mass of the conical flask using a balance. Have you all understood this setup? Did you see what did we do just now? Yes, we've simply taken two substances without them mixing with each other. That means I have weighed the contents before the chemical reaction has taken place. I am trying to weigh the contents before the chemical reaction has taken place, because here we are trying to prove the law which we are going to discuss now. Okay, if you've not understood, do not worry, just observe this apparatus and observe this setup carefully. A conical flask which is containing calcium chloride. In the test tube there is sodium sulfate. Weigh the entire contents without mixing. Okay, now what are we going to do next? In the next step, I am going to tilt the conical flask so that the solution in the test tube gets poured in the conical flask. So after I have weighed the contents, I'm going to tilt it so that both the solutions start mixing with each other. When both of them mix with each other, will there be any change? Let us try to understand this change by weighing the mass of the conical flask again. What changes are you going to notice? Or is there any change in mass? See, I am really not feeling, I'm really unhappy that you're not able to do it live, but do not worry. As you can see in this picture, initially it was calcium chloride and sodium sulfate, right? After tilting, again to my surprise, what do I see? The color has changed. Has the color changed? Can you see the color change here? Before, it was something which is blue in color. After the chemical reaction has taken place, there is a white precipitate of calcium sulfate and sodium chloride. That means, my dear students, after the solutions have mixed with each other, that was a change. A chemical reaction has taken place. The chemical reaction has taken place, because of which a precipitate is formed. I'm sure you have heard about this word precipitate before, but that might have got erased from your memory. So just let me recollect you once again. Precipitate, my dear students, is a solid insoluble substance. It's a solid insoluble substance which is usually formed after mixing two solutions. Okay, which is formed after mixing two solutions. The weight has not changed here. Initially the weight was 300.23 grams. After the chemical reaction, even though a precipitate was formed, the weight is still the same. Here you can see in this picture very clearly that before the chemical reaction, I had two transparent solutions. Let us understand it once again. What was the experiment all about? Do not panic. Just sit back and relax and try to listen to what I have said. Yes, a kind of table salt has been made in this reaction. Correct, Daniel? So my dear students, in the conical flask, we had two substances which were initially not being mixed. In the test tube, we had sodium sulfate. In the conical flask, we had calcium chloride. Before the chemical reaction had taken place, I weighed the entire contents together. The weight of the entire flask was 300.23 grams. After I tilt the conical flask, I allow both the solutions to mix together, because of which there is a change in color, which is indicating me that a chemical reaction has taken place. Change in color is an indication for understanding that a chemical reaction has taken place. So the white precipitate, now there is interchange. White precipitate of calcium sulfate and sodium chloride is formed. And to our surprise, after weighing the contents, the weight is still the same. This experiment is helping me to verify the law of chemical combination. This experiment is helping me understand that the weight of the contents before the chemical reaction and after the chemical reaction is the same. So what are you supposed to write? Did you all understand the experiment? Did you all understand what did we do here? What have we proved here? Tell me that first. What have we proved here? we have proved one thing here, that the contents or the mass of the contents of the atoms in the reactants is same as that of the products. Let me give you another slide so that becomes easier for you. The next one. What have we understood? This law was given by this scientist whose name is Antoine Lavoisier. Who has given us this law? Antoine Lavoisier. In the year 1785, the French scientist Antoine Lavoisier inferred from his research that there is no rise or drop in the mass of the matter during a chemical reaction. That means before the chemical reaction, the mass was same. After the chemical reaction, also the mass was same, even though we have got a new substance altogether. Even though we've got a new substance altogether. So there is no rise or drop in the mass of the matter during a chemical reaction. The precipitate is formed in the conical flask only, dear. The precipitate is formed in the conical flask only. So what is the law of chemical combination? In a chemical reaction, the total mass of the reactant is same as the total mass of the product formed due to the chemical reaction, and this is called as law of conservation of matter. Do not rush in writing. I will give you enough time. First, I want everyone to read and try to learn the definition. What is the first law of chemical combination? That is law of conservation of matter, which says that in a chemical reaction, the total mass of the reactant is same as the total mass of the product formed due to the chemical reaction. If you're feeling that the language here is little abrupt, but students, I have taken this definition from the textbook because you have to strictly stick to the textbook when you're writing the definition. Then only you're going to get full marks. Definition has to be perfect from the textbook. Do not write first. Everyone read it with me. Come on, quickly. In a chemical reaction, the total mass of the reactants is same as that of the total mass of the products formed during the chemical reaction, and this is called as law of conservation of matter. Now I would request you to try to copy this entire slide. If you don't want to write everything, at least you can write the definition. Yes, come on, let me give you some time to write. And for those intelligent students who are really actively participating in the class, you can learn the definition and try to write it without seeing. So the best part, as you all know, what we used to do in the live lectures when we used to be in the classes, we used to learn the definition and then try to write. So that becomes easy for us during exam, isn't it? Those who have finished writing can raise your hand and let me know that yes, ma'am, we are done. And if you're finished writing, if you're so quick, I think please not waste time. Utilize your time in reading the definition. Why not let us just by heart the answer then and there, so that chemistry becomes really simple. As in chemistry, we hardly have brief answers. We have to deal only with small answers. Concept is very important here. Don't keep on staring at the face of Antoine Lavoisier. Try to take his some knowledge and try to read the definition, okay? I hope those who had written that they were not able to understand are very clear with this first law of chemical combination, which is law of conservation of matter. And I hope that everybody has clearly understood with the help of that experiment, where before the chemical reaction, the contents had the same weight, and after the chemical reaction, also the weight was same. That means there was no rise or drop in the mass of matter during a chemical reaction. Is this definition clear to everyone sitting in my class today? So what are we studying? Tell me, what is the topic are we doing now? We are started with laws of chemical combination, in which the first one we have already done, which is law of conservation of matter, which is given by Antoine Lavoisier. And the definition is, can you see the definition without seeing the slide? Come on, you can do this much. Can you see the definition without seeing the slide? In a chemical reaction, yes, come on, the total mass of the reactant is same as the total mass of the products. Isn't it so simple? And I hope everybody knows what is reactant and product. Have you all finished writing? Shall we move ahead now? Yes, my dear students. Okay. Okay. Let us move ahead from law of conservation of matter and try to understand the second law. That is law of constant proportion. To understand this law, like I said, we need to first, I'm sorry, somebody had told me to wait. I'm extremely sorry. I moved the slide. Just quickly finish it. I hope it's finished by now. You're giving others time to read. Thank you. No rise means there is no change. There is no change. Okay. No rise means. Let's move ahead now. For the second law to understand, the second law is law. I hope I am not going fast and you all are able to understand. Conservation means there is no change happening. That is just the name given for the law. Okay. So the second one is law of constant proportion. Yes, I'll go a little slow. Do not worry. For understanding the second law, it's very simple. You might be seeing ma'am says everything is very simple. Yes, it is. When you try to be attentive in the class, everything can be very simple. Let us see what is this very simple law. I have shown you here ice water. Then I've written the formula of water as H2O. Everybody knows the formula of water is H2O, right? I think this was the most easiest question asked today. Kitna simple hai? Okay. Okay, if it's itna simple, then give me this answer, please. The formula water is H2O. I'm sure everybody's houses there's water available. So is that कि तुम्हारे घर में आज पानी H2O नहीं H2O2 आएगा? Tomorrow the formula water is going to change from H2O to H2O2. Will the formula of water change? Is it ever going to change irrespective of from the source of water it is going to come? Obviously no. Everybody knows this is common sense. It is not going to change. It is going to remain H2O. But what is the meaning of this 1:8? What is this ratio helping me understand? Does anybody know what is this ratio all about? Why am I writing 1:8? What does that mean? Is it temperature? No. Quantity, atomic number? No, 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 no. Let us try to understand this. This 1:8 students means that 9 grams of water is formed by the chemical combination of 1 gram of hydrogen and 8 grams of oxygen. Listen to me. It's the ratio which we have got from 9 grams of water by 1 gram of hydrogen and 8 grams of oxygen. We all have studied something which is called as atomic mass, correct? Atomic mass of hydrogen is 1 and oxygen is 16. Hydrogen is 1, oxygen is 16. Atomic mass. It's not atomic number, okay? It's atomic mass. Because there are 2 atoms of hydrogen, it will be 2 divided by 16, which makes it 1:8. Now, I hope this is clear to you. How do we get this ratio of water? And why are we discussing this ratio? Why is it important? Because if I talk about ice water, which is H2O, I am getting 1:8. If I talk about river water, will the formula change? Will the formula of river water change? No, it is still going to be 1:8. Okay, similarly, if I take another source, if I take seawater, H2O, will that formula change? Will that 1:8 change? Oxygen is 16, 1, 6. So it is 2 divided by 16, so we get 1:8. So we were talking here that the formula is not changing. That means the water is going to remain. The constituent elements will always be present in fixed proportion by weight. Irrespective of the source, irrespective from where we are going to get it, the constituent elements, which are my hydrogen and oxygen, are always going to be the same. Will its weight change? Will that 1:8 change? The answer to this question is no, it is not going to change. And that is what is stated in our law of constant proportion. Now, I hope you understand what is this constant proportion. Student, the state will not change anything. The formula is going to remain the same, right? Whether it's ice, whether it is steam, whether it is water, the formula is still H2O. So the ratio is not going to change. So this law of constant proportion was given to us This law of constant proportion was given to us by this scientist whose name is J.L. Proust. What is the name of the scientist? J.L. Proust. Okay. So the next scientist who helped us in understanding the second law of chemical combination was proposed by J.L. Proust in the year. Do not rush in writing. Do not rush in writing. You're not kids to tell me all this, okay? Do not rush. Try to understand and then I will give you enough time to write. In 1794, J.L. Proust, the French scientist, stated the law of constant proportion as the proportion by mass of the constituent elements in different samples of the compound is fixed. I hope you're understanding every word which is given here. What did I say? The proportion by mass of the constituent elements in different samples of the compound. Different samples, like we discussed, no, the source of water, whether it is from river, whether it is from sea, whether it is ice water, these are the different samples, but still my mass, the proportion was the same, isn't it, which was H2O. So this is called as law of constant proportion. Come on everyone, repeat after me. What is law of constant proportion? The proportion by mass of constituent elements in different samples of the compounds is fixed. This is called as law of constant proportion, which was given by J.L. Proust in the year 1794. Now you can take your time and write this slide, and please do not just simply copy what is given here. Try to understand every word and then write. Then the purpose of writing is solved, because these all study materials are there available to you. You can see them anytime. But if you're writing, that means you're learning and writing. Should make you proper use of it. The second law of chemical combination we did today was law of constant proportion, which was given by J.L. Proust, which stated that the proportion by mass of the constituent elements in different samples of the compounds is fixed. Are you all done? Have you all finished writing? First law was given by Antoine Lavoisier. Constituent elements means individual elements which are present in the compound. For example, if I talk about water, which is H2O, so the constituent elements become hydrogen and oxygen. If we talk about carbon dioxide, the constituent element becomes carbon and oxygen. The first law was given by Antoine Lavoisier. I hope I am trying to solve all your doubts which you're able to type it to me. No, all scientists weren't French. If you have forgotten, let me tell you, you have forgotten the Indian physicist, Indian scientist Rishi Kannad, who gave us the most important word Paramanu. So not necessarily all are from France, okay? Okay, so I assume that everybody has finished writing by now and we have clearly understood both the laws, that is law of constant proportion and law of conservation of matter. Thank you so much. Now let us move ahead and try to understand one more example which is related to this law of constant proportion. Most scientists, first law who gave, you want the spelling? Antoine Lavoisier. Main word is Lavoisier. I'll show you the slide once again, do not worry. Miss 1 minute. Okay, I am waiting a minute, right fast. Okay, till then I think I can give you the spelling of Antoine Lavoisier. Antoine is Antoine. Lavoisier is Lavoisier. Ma'am, why does water does not catch fire? For this question, no, I think you should do a little research and give me the answer, because this is the most tricky question. Let's see. Why don't you give me the answer? Why does water not catch fire? Okay, can you please explain the ratio part again? Okay, let me give you the ratio part again. When we were talking about water, which is H2O, as H is 2 and oxygen is 1. First, get that thing clear in your mind. When I talk about water, hydrogen is 2 atoms, oxygen is 1 atom, right? And hydrogen atomic mass is 1. But because I have 2 atoms, it will be 2 multiplied by 1. Similarly, for oxygen, atomic mass is 16. Because atomic mass is 16. So then we have 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 of oxygen. So it becomes 2 is to 16. That is 2 divided by 16, which makes it 1 is to 8. I hope this ratio is clear to you. Okay. In which year? It is in 1785. Law of conservation of matter was given in 1785. I hope I have tried to clear your doubts. Now let us see what is the ratio of carbon dioxide. Ratio of HCl. Yes, we can find out ratio of everything when we'll be dealing with the atomic masses. Okay. Similarly, the proportion by mass of carbon and oxygen in carbon dioxide obtained from any source is 3:8. Now, why does this happen? Meaning of proportion by mass, students, we are taking the ratio of the individual elements. This means that carbon dioxide has the molecular mass of 44 grams. So there is 12 grams of carbon, 32 grams of oxygen, so that the proportion by mass of carbon and oxygen becomes 3:8. If you're still finding this proportion by mass difficult, if you're finding this proportion by mass difficult, do not worry. As we are moving ahead with the chapter, we'll be dealing with something which is called as atomic masses. And when we'll do these atomic masses, the concept of this constant proportion will be very clear in your mind. For now, we have just taken one more example in law of constant proportion, where we are seeing that irrespective from what source the carbon dioxide is going to come, the ratio is always going to be 3:8. The ratio is always going to be 3:8. I'll repeat once again. Arman Shah, will you stop requesting me to remote control of my screen, which I'm not going to give you? You want to be, you can please stop it. Thank you. So the proportion by mass of carbon dioxide, see carbon dioxide, the entire molecular mass of carbon dioxide is 44 grams. We have 1 carbon and 2 oxygen, right? Carbon's atomic mass is 12. And oxygen's atomic mass is 16. But because we are having 2 atoms of oxygen, it becomes 32. So it is 12 divided by 32, which is giving us 3:8. Yes, I hope I've made this clear to you. Why do you think this, Daniel? We'll answer this question a little later. But for now, today, we have completed laws of chemical combination. I'm sorry, we have completed laws of chemical combination. G means, where have you seen this G? I'm not able to understand. Where have you seen this G? I'll just check once again. Do not worry. 12G. Okay, that's grams. That is grams. Initially, we are talking only about in terms of grams. Okay, do not worry. G is indicating grams. That's the mass. For those who have not understood, let us quickly revise what we have done today. Come on, everyone. What did we start with? Go slow for spelling. Antoine Lavoisier. Okay, I'm repeating once again. Antoine is Antoine. I hope that is clear to you. Lavoisier is Lavoisier. Okay. Now, my dear students, today we started with this chapter, which is called as measurement of matter. We studied laws of chemical combination, and we studied law of conservation of matter and law of constant proportion. Law of conservation of matter was given to us by Antoine Lavoisier, and law of constant proportion was given to us by J.L. Proust. Law of conservation of matter helped us understand that the mass of the reactants is always equal to the mass of the products in a chemical reaction. And law of constant proportion helped us to know that the proportion by weight of the constituent elements in various samples of the compounds are fixed. One student has been continuously asking me what is nomenclature. We have not yet come to nomenclature. Why do you want that? Okay. Now, my dear students, I'll be stopping my lecture here. So I'll give you a small homework which you're going to do. You're going to just simply learn the 2 laws which we have done. I think this much you can do, right? Can you all study this much and come for the next class? Only the 2 laws we have done with the 2 laws. Next lecture we'll be starting some other topic. But for now, only the 2 laws which you're supposed to study. Can you all do that much? I hope you all had fun today because I thoroughly enjoyed teaching you. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me. I think Arman Shah, I need to talk to you now. You already learned the definition. Very good. That's very nice. Teacher can't hear you. Can you all hear me? Apologies for my bad throat today. So my dear students, see you next time. Thank you so much, sir. I've done with my lecture.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, students, we are done with the first lecture. We'll meet you around 5 o'clock for the next lecture. Till then, take care. Bye. Bye, everyone.